Lexi Hall being listed as somebody that has been inactive by the Indiana Fever for tomorrow matchup. Now, this is the status report. It says status report for tomorrow's game at New York. Aaliyah Boston out with a lower leg injury. Damsher Downster NWT. And Ty Harris out with a knee injury. And we have Lexi Hall out with a hamstring. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Lexi Hall was hurt, I believe, a couple times last year.
The Indiana Fever dropped their availability report ahead of their exhibition matchup against the New York Liberty, and the list raised a lot of eyebrows across the fan base. Dantas remains absent from training camp entirely, with reports circulating that a visa issue has kept her from joining the squad. No official clarity has been offered on the timeline, but her presence at camp has been non-existent heading into this game. Aaliyah Boston was also ruled out, listed with a lower leg concern, though her absence appears more like a cautious holdback than any serious setback, given that she had been spotted working out and shooting during practice sessions. Ty Harris comes in with a knee issue, and Lexi Hall is sidelined by hamstring tightness, a problem that gave her trouble at points last season as well. The reaction from fans was immediate and heated.
Hall was hurt, I believe, a couple times last year with that hamstring injury. Now, this is very interesting to see. You know, you got a new player like Ty Harris that a lot of fans possibly want to see, and she's hurt. That's very interesting to see. Now, somebody said Hornthal is my least favorite thing. Honestly, I don't even care for a preseason game. Freaking sucks, but I completely understand the caution and I respect it and looking out for the health of our players.
Comments ranged from disbelief to flat-out frustration, with many pointing out that the season had not even started and already the injury list was piling up. Memories of last year's situation, particularly around how the front office handled Caitlin Clark's injury, dragging out vague day-to-day updates from July through October, clearly left a mark. A lot of supporters feel burned, and a new wave of similar-looking communication has reopened those wounds fast. Reporter Chloe Peterson stepped in with some context, stating that all of the absences are being treated as precautionary. For Boston and Harris, the holds are part of a structured return-to-play program following their respective injuries. Hall's hamstring tightness was simply something the organization did not want to push in a game that carries no regular season weight.
Out for the health of our players. Somebody says this is just a precautionary because it's preseason, right? Yeah, I believe that is the case. Somebody said, oh my Lord, whoa, we're really back. I'm not even having fun anymore. Like, what the F? The season hasn't even started yet, and you got to be kidding me. Well, something that we got to realize, y'all, is that a lot of this stuff is precautionary. Somebody said hospital Indiana Fever is back. I hope not. I truly hope that is not the case for the team, man.
According to Peterson, all three would have suited up if this were a real game. Sophie Cunningham was later added to the report as a game-time decision, alongside McConnell in the same status. Wallace and Dantas were both listed as non-injury-related holds. The updated list put the starting post situation in focus, with both Boston and Dantas unavailable.
We done waited so long, and we know how injuries played a major factor in the Indiana Fever last year, man. And it was just not a good look, man. Now, Chloe Peterson has just released a tweet. I believe she's kind of letting us know exactly what all of this means, man. Let me get Chloe Peterson pulled up here. So Chloe Peterson said, all of these are precautionary.
Monique Billings figures to carry that load, while KK could potentially slide into a stretch role depending on matchup demands. Footage from the team's travel to New York circulated online, showing the group heading out together. Boston was spotted among the travelers, with fans noting she appeared to have dropped some weight. Clark was visible in the group as well, which briefly shifted conversation toward the still unannounced release of her signature shoe line, something many expected to have been revealed by this point in the off-season. The traveling party included Billings, Sophie Cunningham, and the broader roster core.
So Chloe Peterson said, all of these are precautionary, I'm told. It is part of AB and Harris' return to play regime after injury. And Hall is dealing with some tightness that Indiana didn't want to risk in the preseason. If it was a regular season game, they would be playing. So this is her kind of letting us know exactly what is going on, man. And that's good that we got some understanding from Chloe. So shout out to her for being boots on the ground and giving us some time.
During the travel, Raven Johnson was caught on camera interacting with fans who had driven significant distances just to catch a glimpse of the squad. Players handed out drinks and exchanged autographs, with the moment drawing positive reactions from supporters watching online. The broader takeaway from fans, however, circled back to transparency. The sentiment was consistent. The organization had an opportunity to address the absences openly at the prior day's press availability and instead let the speculation build overnight. Given the history, that communication gap hits differently for a fan base that has spent over a year asking for straight answers.
On the ground and giving us some type of details and update as to what is happening with the team. Let's see if she got in the comments section. Somebody said, okay, that makes sense. Let me see here. Thanks, Chloe. Thank you. So Cunningham. So yeah, I think this was last year. See, I knew Lexi Hall had a hamstring injury last year, man. Now Sophie was not on the list. So we possibly will be seeing Sophie McDonald.
Every WNBA team's offseason has been sorted into 5 buckets. Contender squads that have genuinely constructed a roster capable of chasing a title this season, got better teams that made real gains, did what they could, organizations that navigated tough situations reasonably well, IC division teams that may have slid back or shifted their direction, and just why decisions that are hard to defend.
Now Sophie was not on the list. So we possibly will be seeing Sophie McDonald GTD. Oh, no. Sophie game time decision. So this is a new list. So Sophie Cunningham is a game time decision. McConnell, game time decision. Aaliyah Boston, out. Lexi Hall, hamstring. T. Harris, knee. Dancers, not injury related. Kay Wallace, not injury related. Whoa. This is very, very interesting. Somebody said, hope so. But Fever.
The Chicago Sky belongs squarely in the got better category. This was a franchise that shared the worst record in the league a year ago and has now built something that looks like a legitimate playoff team. Missing the postseason would be a genuine surprise at this point. Nobody is calling this an elite basketball operation, but a realistic ceiling of 4th seed with a floor somewhere around 9th is meaningful progress when measured against where they were sitting 12 months ago. The Phoenix Mercury landed and did what they could.
Interesting. Somebody said, hope so. But Fever organization are very shady. Don't hide any more from us. We're not giving you a second time. Somebody said already a bad start to how the front office handles the injury report. White could have said yesterday at presser that we're players who wouldn't play as a precaution. Somebody said, I'm curious who's going to play as our post. I guess Billings, since both Boston and Dantes are not there, I think KK could play.
Sato Sabali wanted out, and replacing a player of her caliber is never clean work. Cap structure made retaining a healthy big three complicated, so the organization leaned into keeping Kalea Copper while bringing in Dana Bonner and Alyssa Thomas to fill the void. One of those two will slot into the starting unit. Valkyrie was also brought over from overseas and represents one of the better international talents available. The Mercury passed on the draft entirely but swept up undrafted free agents who were getting first-round buzz from some corners.
From last year, then we have did what they could. This is, given the circumstances, they did the best they could. And it'll be very obvious what teams are going to be putting in there. Well, you'll see. And then we've got just why. So I'm going to shift all of these up because I don't want to just go over the three expansion teams at the end. There we go. And yeah, that's fine. So the Chicago Sky, I'm going to put them right bang smack in the middle of got better. This is a team that was tied worst in the league last year and is now a playoff contender.
It was a net neutral offseason, not a step forward, but not a collapse either. Connecticut Sun also lands and did what they could, though it is a close call, paying significant money to Brittany Griner and Kennedy Burke for a single season on a roster that won 11 games last year projects to maybe 14 wins this time around. This organization is clearly not interested in positioning itself for the Juju Watkins sweepstakes. The result is a team that will probably be too functional to bottom out, but too limited to sniff the playoffs.
This is a team that was tied worst in the league last year and is now a playoff contender. This team is absolutely a playoff contender, and it's a team that should make it If they don't make it, I would be shocked. And yeah, I can't say that much more. I think this is a really solid team. I'm not going to pretend this is this unbelievable basketball team or anything, but they're a team that, if all goes well, they probably have a ceiling of 4th seed, a floor of 9th seed. And I don't think that's
Their backcourt is legitimately enjoyable to watch, which makes the whole thing a bit frustrating. The Dallas Wings, on the other hand, sit firmly in just why. There is real enthusiasm in some circles about what Dallas has assembled. Going from the worst team in the league to a playoff challenger sounds great on paper. The problem is the context. The Wings won 10 games last season.
a floor of 9th seed. And I don't think that's bad, especially from where they came from. The Phoenix Mercury, this is in fact the old logo. This logo is terrible, but it's so much better than the M&M's logo they have at the minute. Phoenix Mercury. I'm going to put them in did what they could, because they didn't get better. Satu wanted to go to New York, and how did they replace Satu? Because they also had to have there was also the problem with replacing Satu of
they had an enormous head start in the tank race for Juju Watkins. All the moves that needed to happen were simple. Load the roster with young players, hand Paige Buecher's total freedom, let her dominate, let her put up historically big scoring numbers, and let the losses pile up naturally. Instead, long-term commitments to Arike Ogunbowale and Alana Smith have locked the cap for years. Paige Buecher's could develop into the best player in the league, and this team still will not be a championship contender for at least 3 seasons. Drafting and signing win-now pieces around a franchise cornerstone who needed time and organizational patience is a confusing strategy, especially when Ogunbowale has 1 year remaining before she can walk.
There was also the problem with replacing Satu of it becomes tougher to keep a big 3, cap space-wise. So they wanted to keep Kalia Copper, and they replaced Satu by bringing back Duana Bonner, who I thought was okay for them last year, let's be real, and bringing in Valu Ayayi. One of those is going to take Satu's spot in the starting lineup, and Ayayi is one of the best players from overseas. So I think they did what they could. I think they've recruited well. I think they brought in a lot, and I mean a lot of the best undrafted free agents.
The window to pair Buechers with a generational talent like Watkins may have already closed. The Indiana Fever end up and did what they could, though barely. Free agents were not exactly lining up to come to Indianapolis. Had the organization locked Sophie Cunningham down on a slightly team-friendly deal or used the 10th pick on something other than an undersized point guard, arguably the least scarce archetype in basketball, the offseason could have looked meaningfully better. The Misha Hines-Allen signing is solid at the price.
Undrafted free agents, and giving them a shot. I think this is a team who didn't take anyone in the draft, but probably got the equivalent of, they got players that people were talking about maybe creeping into the first round. So I think they did what they could. Didn't get better, but I don't think they had a bad offseason at all. Connecticut Sun, they did what they could. They're paying big money to Brittany Griner and Kennedy Burke for 1 year. This team won 11 games last year, is going to win 14 games this year.
Ty Harris is a strong pickup. Mo Billings is fine. Cunningham is back for another year, which at least preserves the ability to negotiate a proper extension. It is not a strong off-season, but the floor was low enough that did what they could is probably accurate. The Washington Mystics are comfortably the most strategically intentional bad team in the league, and there is something almost admirable about the clarity of the plan.
14 games this year. This is an organization that does not care about, they don't care about tanking for Juju and giving Houston Juju. They don't care. So I would say, I'd be very close to, if this was a team, if they're already the Houston Comets, I would say just why. Because again, they're not going to be bad enough to get into the Juju Watkins sweepstakes, and they're not going to be good enough to make the playoffs. But at
the roster has been built in a way that makes winning genuinely difficult. A top draft pick plays the same position as the max contract player, meaning the 2 best players on the team will rarely share the floor. The projected starting shooting guard is a 6'4" power forward by trade. Nobody on this team can shoot. It is going to be chaotic and oddly watchable. But the reason this is all happening is straightforward. The Chicago Sky pick swap is unlikely to convey. Draft capital is stacking up, and Juju Watkins enters the draft next year.
To make the playoffs. But at the same time, they might just about be bad enough. They'll be better than last year. They'll be better than last year. I love their backcourt. Then we have the Wings, my first team that I'm putting in just why. And a lot of people love what the Dallas Wings have done in the offseason. They're like, well, look, they're the worst team. They were the worst team in the WNBA last season, and now they're fighting for the playoffs. And I'm like, exactly. Exactly. It is as simple as that. Like, I will say the word exactly.
To have any meaningful shot at that pick, the Mystics need to be genuinely bad, not just mediocre, but bad enough that their average win total hovers somewhere around 10. The previous coaching staff reportedly resisted the direction the organization wanted to go. Both Tebows are gone. The message from the front office is apparently clear. This is a franchise that wants to lose in the short term and has a coherent reason for doing so.
As to why the Dallas Wings should be in just why. Because they won 10 games last year. They have a head start. If you guys don't know, the Indiana Fever were not the worst team in the WNBA before Caitlin Clark got there. They were just so bad the year before, 2 years before she got there. That they still had the best odds for number 1 overall pick. The Dallas Wings won 10 games last year. All they had to do.
The LA Sparks got better. Much like Chicago, this is a team that missed the playoffs last year and now looks like a lock to make them. The ceiling projects to around the 3rd seed, with a floor somewhere in the 7th range. Slightly higher upside than Chicago, slightly more stable floor, a solid, older roster that has done what was needed this offseason. The Golden State Valkyries land in just why, purely on the basis of one decision.